My co-host, Mr. Robert Kinney. Robert, welcome.
How are you, sir?
Good week?
Great week.
Awesome. Robert the painter. Robert,
I got a little paint still on
Robert
me.
Da Vinci is this
I tried to get presentable, but there's only so much you can present this with.
There you go. So, as always, Three Guys Who Love Sports is to help the sport men that are going through mental and physical issues. And if we can help take their mind off what they're going through for an hour every week and you help someone else, this world will be a better place. And speaking of a better place, it's good to have Caitlin Corral back. Welcome back, Caitlin.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. Been busy.
Yeah. Well, Caitlin just wrapped up her senior year. Well, it's a couple of months now of javelin throwing at KSU. And now she's going to – have you already been offered a job in the police department or –
No, not yet. I'm waiting to finish moving apartments before I even try.
Oh, okay. All right. So tell us what's going on here at Miller's. What's new? What's hot?
We've had the summer crowd come through. It's been a little bit busier, especially with all of the baseball teams around at Perfect Game and PBR. Yeah. Having to deal with a lot of baseball teams and deal with up to 20 people at a table at a time.
We didn't want the fries. We had onion rings. So if you could take this all back.
Have you had any interesting things, stories you can share with us as you typically do?
Oh, I had a lady ask to be my cat and then meow at me 3 times during the service.
Yeah, we won't even go there. That's pretty funny. That's
she already went there. There's you can turn it.
No. I can turn it to turn away. There are other ways I could go, but we'll leave that alone. That's awesome. So yeah, what's of course the Braves being hot. Does that bring a lot of people in here?
Yeah. Every game day, we get a solid crowd, especially out here on the patio. But if you're working inside, it's not too bad.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, we appreciate you stepping in and representing Miller's Ale House in a very, very fine way.
I was glad to be back on.
All right, great to have you. Everybody a big hand for Caitlin. There you go. And, we're going to bring in our guest, Rusty Phillips. Rusty, come on in. But, before we get into our topics, I want to mention Michael Eubanks and the success he had at Wimbledon, the last American in at Wimbledon, and held himself well. He represented himself well. Chris Eubanks, yeah. Did I say Bob Eubanks?
You said Michael.
Oh, I was thinking of
I was going to say Bob. I know that one.
But yeah, Chris Eubanks, and he lost in 5 sets today to Daniil Medvedev, and he will be going on to play in the semis against Djokovic or Alcaraz. Alcaraz. So Alcaraz, yeah. All right, so Rusty, welcome back, buddy.
Glad to be back.
It's good to have you back.
Great to see you.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute or two. Yeah. So first topic of the day is baseball. Adam, do you know who was the last team that beat the Braves in a series?
Last team to beat the Braves in a series. I don't think they've lost a series all season.
Oh, yes, they have.
They have.
Yeah, have.
They got swept by the Astros or Padres early there.
No, it was
3 out of 4.
They were 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
But do you know who the last team that beat them was in the series?
I thought this was his question.
No, Adam doesn't. He doesn't do baseball.
I did not know.
Who are the Oakland Athletics?
There you go.
Beat them
the
2 out of 3.
Worst team in baseball.
May 29th, 30th, 31st. That was the last series the Braves lost. So that's pretty cool.
That was the same show that when you complained about the Braves and said they were.
I said there's 500. Since they were 10 games over 500, they played 500 ball, and since then they're 20 games over 500. So I was the bad luck, good luck charm for the Braves, and it boosted them on to better things. Right?
That's how it worked.
That's how it goes. That's right. All right. So the other hot story, obviously the Braves are really hot. I have been very impressed with Ellie De La Cruz from the Cincinnati Reds. He pulled off another stunner this week. Did you see that? In one at bat, with one batter up. You know what it is?
Stealing 3 bases on 2 pitches?
Stole second base, third base, and stole home. That's pretty impressive for anybody. And he's already hit for the cycle this year.
But he did it on 2 pitches.
I know. That's amazing.
So you think about somebody stealing bases. Well, if you stole 1 base per pitch, that'd be impressive.
Yeah.
He didn't even do it on 3 pitches.
Did they catch the ball, or when they threw it, or was it thrown in the outfield?
He stole second, got in by a long shot. The third baseman was playing back, so when he stole third, he got such a jump that the third baseman didn't really even flinch. And when he took third, he kind of adjusted his helmet, and everybody's dejected. The third baseman still hasn't walked over. Catcher kind of throws it back to the pitcher, and the pitcher just kind of does
Lollygagging?
It is lollygagging, and there's no doubt about it. But the thing about it is he's the fastest guy in baseball, and people aren't accustomed to that kind of speed. So he's just sitting there, and he's like, not paying attention, gone. And,
Yeah, when I was in
Unbelievable.
when I played Little League baseball in Dalton, we had a guy on our team that could do that, and the pitchers really had to watch him because he would run the first like he got a base hit, and that pitcher wasn't paying attention. He was at second before.
Oh,
he
absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
as a pitcher, that's what I would always do. Is I would always watch those guys on base just to make sure. I'd never walk with my back to them.
Oh, no, you can't. You
Yeah.
can't. What
Yeah,
Ellie
that's pretty
Daly Cruz.
impressive. 3 bases on 2 pitches. Wow.
Three bases on 2 pitches.
Wow.
He's done some amazing things. A month into the season, he had the 3 hardest hit balls at any level, and he was still in the minors. His very first day, he had the highest exit velocity of a Red all season. When he hit for a cycle, it was the first cycle hit by a Red since 1989.
Johnny Davis, right?
When he stole 3 bases in an inning, it was 100 years since he did that. He's going to look great in a Braves uniform in 3 years. I
you
don't know
think
what
so?
else to tell you.
He's not coming.
Who knows?
Cincinnati, if you've learned anything from baseball and what they're doing with these young players, you better get him locked up like we did Acuna. Give him the 10 years, $100 million, and give it to him quick, because if not, somebody will be poaching.
I mean, you got what the hedge fund guy at the Mets likes to spend money. Of course, his team isn't any good, but
If you wait a couple years and think, well, we'll give him that $100 million deal in 2 years,
He's gone.
He's
out
not
of
gonna.
there.
He's not gonna
he's
take
gone.
that deal.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get him signed, sealed, and delivered quickly.
And I listened to an interview yesterday with Anthopoulos, and he talked about the chemistry on the Braves, and when they're looking about bringing in people before the trade deadline. I think it's end of the month, right?
Yep.
July 31st.
Yep.
So he said we want to be very careful with bringing in somebody that's not going to fit in the culture that we have created, and they're very happy about where they are. It always blows me away that people, I guess their biggest fans expect them to win every game. You can't win every game.
Not when you're playing 162.
That's what I'm talking about.
What? Don't they have the best record in baseball? Don't they?
They do.
They do. Yep. Yep. So it's very hard, because I've got friends on Facebook. They'll say, "Oh, Snicker should have done this, should have done that." I said, "How can you question a World Series coach?"
It's easy to question Snit.
Yeah.
Snit should be retired. He was given the Freddie Gonzalez job, and because the team, who's not even around anymore, won a few games in that final month, we've kept him around.
Yep.
Best coach on the team is either in the dugout next to him, Walt
Chipper?
Weiss,
Oh, Walt Weiss.
or in the third base box, Ron Washington.
Ron Washington and Walt Weiss have both been coaches before, right? Walt
Yes,
Weiss
sir.
was a player at Oakland. Didn't he play at
But
Oakland?
he played at the Braves, though, didn't he?
Walt
Weiss?
Weiss,
Yeah,
just for like a year or so.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, he was
All
a
right.
Braves player at one
So,
time.
from the Braves' perspective, what do you think was the coolest moment from the All-Star game? Because I think only one person got a hit, right? Austin Riley was 1 for 1, I think.
Austin Riley was flashing leather all night. He had multiple snags over there. There was that play where he hit the line drive and he caught it on his knee and gunned it across and got the double play with Alonso. There was another play where he barehanded it, threw it over, and Olsen picked it. One of my favorite moments was every time they showed the National League dugout, they were showing Arcia. Arcia's standing on the top row. Here's the one guy in the dugout who most people don't know. And going back to what Double A was talking about with the chemistry, you could tell this is a team guy, and he's just having a blast out there.
He's the cheerleader. He was the cheerleader on the team last night. But they did something last night that had not been done in over a decade in the All-Star game, and it was a Brave that did it. Do you know what that is?
Well, we won. The National League won. That's the
For
first
the first time
time
since
That's true.
2012, yeah. But what was the other thing? That was my question for Adam, because I didn't know if he'd watched it or not.
I did not.
There was a caught stealing. Sean Murphy threw somebody out,
Oh.
and the first time it's been done in an All-Star game since 2011. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. So I think that's got to be the coolest thing for the Braves, because other than Arcia standing on the dugout steps cheering.
I thought it was funny when Kenley Jansen was pitching. Will Smith, the catcher for the Dodgers, got onto first base, and of course Kenley has the slowest delivery in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And so as soon as he started that thing that he does, the catcher took off and stole second. It was kind of like, I've been catching you for years. I know how slow you are. I'm going to go ahead and take this base.
That's cool. And it was really cool. I mean, I'm not much of an all-star fan. The home run derby, it's just show. I don't know what it's for. Anthopoulos made a point that he's very glad that there were no Braves in the home run derby.
I said that the other night. You don't want one of your best players swinging 90 times harder than they would ever swing during a normal game, because you can't swing that hard when it's in a normal game. When it's batting practice, you can swing that hard. So, yes, I'm very glad. And I'm a purist. I wish Bud Selig was never born and we didn't have interleague play. And what the All-Star game used to give you, because you didn't, National League never played the American League, so there was only
during the regular season.
There was only 2 times that you got to ever see it, and that was All-Star game and World Series. And there was no stats to talk about. Well, Braves never played the Rangers, so we don't know what that game's going to look like. But the All-Star game was always cool and important, and people wanted to win because of that.
And now for a while there, they said whoever won the All-Star game was the host team of the World Series, right?
That's because Bud Selig screwed the pooch, and we ended up in an extra inning game where nobody had any players left, so he had to have them try to coach it differently.
They got to get 162 games in to pay these millions and billions of dollars to these players. So, yeah, you're going to have interleague play.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
And I'm with Robert. I'd like to see him play. I think the World Series meant a lot more when it was the American League versus the National League, and they had not seen each other all year.
And they hadn't seen each other.
That reminds me. I saw a stat the other day that I believe last week the Cubs played the Yankees in New York, and it was the first time ever that the Cubs had beaten the Yankees in New York.
Correct. And that's
really?
That's a great stat, but it shouldn't have happened. The only time the Cubs should ever beat the Yankees is if they are the 2 best teams in their and they both win the pennant, and you go from there. Hey, I got a question for you guys. Luis Arraez is batting .383 currently. Where do you think he's going to finish up?
Oh, he's the one that was up around 400, right?
That's correct. He's right now over 50 points higher than the next player in baseball, which is still mind-boggling.
I think he's going to kind of do the reverse of what Michael Harris has done. Michael Harris got off to a very slow start, so he might hit 300 for the rest of the year. And comparatively, that's slow based on what he's doing. So he might wind up hitting 350, 360, but I don't see him staying up around.
So you
4.
still see him getting a batting title?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he'll get a batting title.
I don't know. I'm 320. I don't even know this guy.
320.
I'm going to guess 320.
320.
It's tough to fall from that far. I mean, that's a 60-point drop.
It is. And,
this far into the season.
And we've talked about it before. Currently, he is striking out less than 6% of his at-bats. When you look at big sluggers like Olsen right now is probably striking out 32% of the time. This guy's striking out less than 6%. So he's putting more balls in play. He gets lucky more than most. But, he did win a batting title last year in the American League for the Twins, and he only struck out less than 8% at that point. So this is who he is.
All right, real quick. I know you picked the Braves the first of the year to be in the
I'm
World
going to
Series.
change my mind, Chuck.
Yeah, I don't think that. But who are they going to play?
Well, I will change that pick. I went with the Mariners to begin with. I'll just go with the team that can't stop scoring runs, the Rangers. The Rangers look like the real deal, and we'll see how it all pans out.
Yep. Rusty, how about you?
Well, beside the Braves, I would say it's either the Rays or the Rangers were the ones I had. So, yeah, I mean, either one of those. I mean, you got both of them have the best record in the American League, I think.
Yeah.
And the Braves have run away with it. If they don't make the World Series, Snit needs to be fired. So,
bam.
Probably the best team they've ever had in terms of the Braves. I'm gonna I want to take the Braves, but I'm not going to take them just because I want to be different. So I'm going
You don't have to not take the Braves to be different, Chuck. Just want to let you
So
know
I'm going to
that.
take the Reds and the Rangers. That was my pick.
The Reds and the Rangers. Well,
Reds
you
and the
know,
Rangers, just to be illiterate.
the Braves appreciate you not jumping on the bandwagon. But, I will say this.
Because that's why they play better when I don't jump on the bandwagon.
This is the best hitting lineup, clearly, the Atlanta's ever had. But
Oh, I
they
totally
got a lot of holes in this starting pitching staff and bullpen. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Speaking of a lot of work done, we got to get a commercial in. Alvin Jameson, thank you for your sponsorship.
Hey, Alvin Jameson here, the mortgage guy. Are you looking to get pre-approved for a home loan? Or maybe you want to build a house from the ground up? Are you curious, or better yet, is your significant other on your back about making renovations in your current home? Call me. I have options for you. All self-employed individuals. Are you torn between writing off all your income or having to show your income to qualify for a house? I have a third alternative for you. Whether you're a W-2 employee, self-employed individual looking to do a purchase or pull money out of your current house, or better yet, we can't forget the investors out there. If you have that high interest rate, hard money loan and looking to refinance out of it, again, give me a call. I have options. Below are the states that I'm personally licensed in. Call me, 404-587-9033. Again, 404-587-9033. Visit the website, alvinjameson.com.
All right. Thank you, Alvin Jameson, for being a sponsor. Appreciate it, as always. And we're to the segment now where we talk about the greatest athlete that ever wore the jersey number. And I can't believe we're already up to number 13. Started at Goose Egg, and here we are at 13. That's hard to believe, isn't it?
I just want to say, when this show is 20 years old and we revisit the greatest who ever played, Ronald Acuna will own this position at that point.
Number 13.
I couldn't do it today. I couldn't do it today.
They told me, somebody told me, he said, you know what, you ought to do the worst jersey. I said, well, when we get to 99, well, then we'll get to who was the worst player to ever wear that jersey.
I don't know. A Georgia player had number 99.
That
and
Gretzky had 99.
That'll get
really good.
Yeah, he'll probably be the greatest, but I don't know about the worst.
Why are you saying?
That
Are you saying he's the greatest because that's his nickname?
double entendre.
Okay.
Yeah, he is the greatest, and it was his nickname. All right, so for me, there were three choices. I mean, there were a lot of choices out there at number 13. Wilt Chamberlain, Dan Marino, A-Rod, Steve Nash, Kurt Warner, Don Maynard, which I don't know where
Dandy
Sean
Don.
went, but Dandy Don, he was who Joe Willie threw to, right?
Dandy Don was the guy who was hammered in all of the Monday night football.
That's Don Meredith.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of Don Maynard.
No,
Don Maynard is the wide receiver
Yeah.
For the Jets.
Yeah, and if you've seen the Joe Namath documentary that they've had, that HBO has, they interviewed Don Maynard, and he says that is the hardest ball he had ever caught in his career.
From Joe
And
Joe
he
Namath?
said, I would go home with bruises, and you know, his significant other would wonder if he would actually went to the game or he was in a bar fight. So it was
right.
that hard.
So let's
and I've heard that same conversation from Peyton Manning
Yeah.
and Dan Marino,
Yep.
wide
Yep.
receivers over the
yeah.
years.
So that's pretty cool. So I got it narrowed down to three. I got down to Marino, and to Wilt Chamberlain, and to Roberto Clemente.
Roberto Clemente.
I mean, I would probably, okay. Dan Marino, he wasn't that good.
Yeah. All right. So Russ, we'll let you start. Who is your guy at number 13?
Well, I have a lot, and I got a surprise for you on 13 too. I mean, if you want to go soccer, which my son informed me that Germany, that won the World Cup when he was in Germany back in high school, Thomas Müller.
Mueller.
And
I used to work for Moeller. I know all
Yes.
about Mueller.
Even got a nod, positive nod of the head from
Yes,
ATI, the intern.
Great.
Mueller is
Great guy.
fantastic.
Yeah.
He's a great
And
midfielder.
but I also had Clemente.
Yeah.
But there was one that I looked up, and he wore the number 13 for the Brooklyn Dodgers, what is he famous for?
I'd have to know who he is.
His name is Ralph Branca, B-R-A-N-C-A.
Oh, he replaced Lou Gehrig. Is that right?
That would be negative.
No, because Lou Gehrig didn't play for that team.
No,
Well, I've heard of Bronca. He's the guy that hit the ball that Willie Mays caught.
that would be negative.
I know the name, but I just can't remember what he is.
Is he the guy that used to run off the field during
No.
games?
That would be negative.
Lou Branca
Chase
played a
Fire
long time
Truck?
ago.
Yeah, yeah.
No, there was a
in
guy.
19. This is 1951. So that's.
No.
Oh, so I was 10.
Lou Branca.
So I was
did
10
Lou
at the
Branca
time.
throw the pitch that was the shot heard around the world?
By the way, you are correct. He was the guy
Robert.
that he wore number 13.
By
He
the
won.
way, my father-in-law was at that game.
He
Yeah,
won.
so was
the,
everybody's father-in-law, but okay, we'll buy
Yeah.
into it.
He's from New York. Yeah, we have the ticket stub and everything.
Yeah, he was. He wore the number 13, and he was famous before he pitched that game. It says that he took a picture with black cats to kind of scare the people because he wore the number 13, and he goes out there and gives up the home run to the Bobby Thompson.
Bobby
Shot
Thompson.
heard around the world.
That won the World Series for the I think the New York Giants.
And what does the announcer say after the home run? He says it 3 times.
I never watched.
Oh, I know it.
I don't like
As soon as you
I've
say it, I'll
seen
know it.
but I
The
did-
Giants win the
Giants
pennant.
win the
The
pennant, yeah.
Giants
Yes,
win
they
the
do.
pennant. The Giants win the
So anyway,
which
so
it is
thank
an
you.
incredible story.
So thank you, Chuck. That was interesting to find that out. I did not know that, but it was good.
That was very
I'm
cool.
glad you sent me this because that was fun to
So
look.
who is your 13? Who's
Who
your
is your
greatest
number
athlete
one?
to wear 13?
I'm going to say Roberto Clemente.
Okay.
I think he died way too. He would have been a great player,
Well,
and
he played
was a
13
great
years.
player.
Yeah.
He played
But-
17 years. He got his 3,000th hit against
Yeah.
the Braves on
Yeah.
the last day of the regular
Yeah,
season.
he was a
Before his
great.
plane crash. Yep.
Yep.
And the plane crash. I did a little extra from dive into
Right.
the plane crash,
Right.
and what a horrible thing.
Yeah.
He had a connection to Nicaragua. He's actually Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
But got all of these things donated for
Yeah.
the earthquake relief fund, and found one guy who said, "Yeah, I got a plane," and it was the worst plane on
Right.
the freaking island, and everybody died. It's like-
Didn't he help the Pirates win the World Series during this?
Yeah, he won 2 World
yeah.
Series.
He won two.
But yeah, that's when you did that. I kind of said Roberto Clemente would be mine. Yeah.
All right. So here's the stats on Wilt Chamberlain. 2 times NBA champion, 1-time Finals MVP, 13-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year in 1960, 7-time scoring champ, NBA assist leader in 1968, which means Jokic wasn't the first big man to lead the league in assists. So that's pretty cool. 13 years, 1,045 games played, 30.1 points per game, 22.9 rebounds, and 4.4 assists. So if he led that 1 year, he must have had some thin years too, where he wasn't doing much assists.
Oh yeah, well I mean, when you're scoring 100 points a game, you're not dishing the ball very often. So
And Wilt's probably most prestigious stat is sleeping with 20,000 women.
20,000 women
20,000 women.
doesn't get much better than 20,000
Yeah,
women.
that doesn't surprise me.
And I read a story today about how that came about. There was a guy with him that
Did the
in
math.
Hawaii, and the 10 days they were in Hawaii, every time Wilt was with somebody, he put a mark down. And he said over the 10 days it was 23 people. So 2.3, and he did 1.5 to be conservative.
But could you imagine
And
those scoring 100 points in a game? I mean,
I'm more
some
concerned with the 20,000.
Well, that is true. Some teams score 100. The whole team does.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It was just one guy.
He could have beat some teams by
Oh,
himself that
absolutely.
night.
And then Dan Marino, 9-time Pro Bowl, 0 Super Bowl appearances.
One Super Bowl appearance. His
No
rookie
wins.
year.
No wins.
0 Super Bowl.
Yeah. 1 NFL MVP, 5 times NFL passing leader. Cool thing about it is he played with one team. Wilt played with several. And Robert being a purist, I'm the same way. I'd like to see everybody stay with their one team for their whole careers. And then Clemente, 2 times World Series champion, 1 times National League MVP, 15-time All-Star, 4-time National League batting champion, 317 average, 240 home runs and 1,305 RBIs.
But it's so cool that 3,000 hits, not 3,001. You look at it, and it's like
Right.
3,000.
Wasn't he like the first from the South American country to play there? Wasn't he, the first?
He's from Puerto Rico, but he is the first great Latino baseball
that's what I
player.
thought,
And
yeah.
if you look anywhere from the Dominican to Venezuela or anything else, all of these kids learned that it could be me too because of Roberto Clemente.
Right.
Yeah. So out of those three, for me, Dan Marino's out because he never really was a champion.
Bam!
But-
Wore the jersey, but throwing him under the bus.
But he was, in my opinion, before Manning, the best quarterback that had played. I think Wilt's 20,000 takes away from what he did. I don't think it adds to what he did. I think he lost a lot of reputational strength from that. So I'm going with Roberto. I think Roberto's, and I hate to agree with Rusty more than anything else on the earth, but I have to agree with Rusty. So Robert, what say you, buddy?
I say I want to hear ATI's race car
I
driver.
like that one. That's why Robert's my favorite. So my race car driver of the week is Casey Mears.
So did you understand that? He's not actually picking anything
No.
except my race car driver of the
I
week
have a race
is
car driver of the week. He only has one Cup Series win. It was the Coke 600, which is a fantastic win. He won the 24
Charlotte,
Hours of
right?
Daytona.
Yep.
Yes. He also won the 24 Hours of Daytona with Scott Dixon and Dan Weldon. But my athlete, the greatest athlete to wear 13 is Wilt Chamberlain. Next question.
All right,
bam.
Robert.
So Roberto Clemente loved him. Outside of Ronald Acuna and probably Ellie De La Cruz, we haven't seen anybody run with reckless abandonment the way that man runs. You watch that old black and white film of him turning it on, and it's just fun to watch. Dan Marino, Dan Marino's rookie year, that 84 season, everything he did was a record. And they were records for 30 years. So, he was so far ahead of his time. But going back to everything I've been saying during this list, can't give it to Dan because Dan didn't win anything. Wilt. What do you want to know about Wilt? Wilt played for 3 teams. All 3 teams retired the number 13. You know who else retired the number 13? A team he never even played for. The Harlem Globetrotters. Right. They retired the number 13.
He played for the Harlem Globetrotters.
But you're so freaking good. We're going to retire that one too.
Yeah, he did.
He played for them before he was in the NBA.
Right.
I got a list for you. Ready? 2 names. See if you guys can tell me about these 2 names. Bob Boozer and Bailey Howell. Do you know what those 2 players have in common?
They were both wore number 13.
No, they were the 2 morons who got picked ahead of Wilt Chamberlain in the 1959 draft. If you have to look back at those GMs, I think we should fire the guy who took Bob Boozer number 1 overall when Wilt went number 3. But I made the argument a long time ago why he was the best basketball player. He averaged over 50 points a season. He had the 100. Nobody's ever scored 60 in back-to-back games in NBA history. Wilt did it 4 times in a row. They changed offensive goaltending, defensive goaltending. They widened the paint. The old
Changed the free throw.
The free throw thing, you didn't used to have to wait until it hit the rim. And so basically he started throwing himself alley-oops where he'd throw it up.
Off the backboard and crash and jam. Yeah.
And that's why they moved the paint out. The first thing they did was like, okay, well, let's get some more room in there.
We talked about that with Walter Jordan when Walter was on the show, didn't
Absolutely.
we? Yeah.
I mean, he's just unbelievable on every level. And, there's a reason why he's Wilt. And I know you're saying it kind of takes away from him, the 20,000. Not to those 20,000.
Probably
I don't know.
not.
I'm a Bill Russell fan, though. I never was really a Wilt
But he's not
Chamberlain
number
fan.
13.
I know he's
Well,
not number
but
13,
he's.
So you go with Wilt?
I'm going with Wilt. I don't see there's any way to go anything
So
but
hey,
Wilt.
let-
2 Wilts and a Roberto.
Dan
Robertos.
Marino, though. Dan Marino, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me on this, I think he beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl that knocked Georgia out of
When he
the
was-
national championship. Georgia was undefeated.
When he was with Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Georgia was
My
undefeated
goodness.
when that happened, and
Penn
we were
State.
ahead. and they drove down
Pitt.
and scored a last
Pitt in
minute.
1981. Penn
82,
State in
82.
82.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, he knocked us out of the national championship game. I think we were undefeated that year, and one of Herschel Walker's last years, and drove down the field and beat us with a touchdown.
And that is
That's
why
why.
Dan Marino is my favorite quarterback.
And that's why I do not like him.
He used to be mine. All right. So we got two Robertos,
Roberto Clemente.
two Robertos, and two Wilt, which is probably a pretty good balance, right?
It's kind of crazy that I went Wilt and you guys
Yeah.
went Clemente.
Hey, Brent, who's the greatest athlete to ever wear 13?
He takes a pass on that one.
Brent Rittersdorf in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Brent's been a fan on here before. So before we move on to our next commercial, ATI has something he wants to share with us today.
Okay, so we got a question on our TikTok for the panel. The question is, who is the best?
We're a panel.
We got a question on our TikTok
up a little bit.
from Haven. He wants to know who's the best MMA fighter of all time.
John Jones, 27-1. How can it get any better than that?
Oh, come on.
God, I love these guys who always go current people. What you got?
I'm Randy Couture.
It's hard to argue Randy Couture. I'm going to go way back. I'm going to say Gracie, but not because Gracie is everything to everybody, which he is, and he invented his own Brazilian jiu-jitsu and everything else. But the old Shamrock Gracie feud back when MMA first started, that was some fun stuff. I remember watching the one. It was the longest. It's still the longest match ever in MMA history. It was like 36 minutes, and they didn't have judges, so they just had to stop because neither one of these guys can move anymore, and we can't have them fight any longer, or somebody's going to die.
The most dangerous man in the world. I can remember when he had his first debut in wrestling.
So there's your answer of who are the greatest MMA fighters of all times. Let's move on to our second commercial, if we would, with Modern Image.
Modern Image is a locally owned document and photograph scanning company that helps clients secure and use paper files and photos. Whether it's important business files or sentimental family photos and videos, Modern Image is dedicated to helping clients solve problems around paper.
Go Dogs.
Thank you, Chuck.
No, thank you, David, for being a sponsor. That's the only reason we're saying it, because we love David.
No, we'd say it for other reasons.
Some of us would say it. AT and I don't agree on much, but this one we're in sync. All right. So segment 3, 22 days till the Hall of Fame game. There is a professional football game 22 days from today. I'm so excited.
An NFL professional game.
Yeah.
Not one of those other leagues.
No, NFL, not the FX or the USFL or whatever it is, but pro football starts in 22 days. So I thought over the next 8 weeks, how many divisions are there in pro football?
19?
9.
No, that would be 8. Good try,
Ah, dang it.
though. North, east,
pretty easy to
west,
stump
south.
ATI.
North, east, west, south. Yeah. So we're going to start in the AFC, and we're going to discuss the North. So those teams are, Robert, do you know those off the bat?
I do.
That's too easy. All right, go ahead.
We'll go the 2 teams from Ohio, the Browns and the Bengals,
Yep.
and then their neighbor from next door, the Steelers, and then, of course, the old Browns, which would now be the Ravens.
Exactly. Yeah, with
No,
the
this-
Art Modell Browns,
Baltimore, they were the. Never mind.
right? No, that was Baltimore
Never mind.
Colts. Good try.
Baltimore moved over there, and that's why
That's-
Cleveland moved
yeah,
over.
exactly.
Never mind.
Don't blame ATI. Like I said, it's easy to stump him, but he wasn't alive during all that
He's
stuff.
got a
so
cold
it's
too,
different.
so
I have a cold, I'm
let's cut
tired.
him some slack.
There we go.
All right, so
Are you feeling all right?
yeah,
All right. Never heard you say let's cut ATI some slack.
so that's what I'm talking about, cutting ATI some slack. All right, so we are going to go through both divisions, North, East, West, and South, but we're going to start, like I said, with the North. And at the end of that 8 weeks, we'll have one more week before the season starts, and that's when we'll make our picks. So we're more here to just discuss what's going on in the AFC North. So let's start with Cincinnati, because they are the 2 times reigning AFC champions, right?
They are.
Yep. Or no, in the
AFC
AFC
North
champions, yes, not the AFC champs, because they got beat twice by.
Oh no, they were the champs 2 years ago.
Yep, went played the Super Bowl. Yep. All right, so
They're good. They are so good.
Yeah.
I was reading this thing. They were talking about Joe Burrow, and supposedly, with a grain of salt, this high school teacher of Joe Burrow had a conversation with his parents because when you look down the list, Joe has these tendencies that put him in a category with like stuntmen or serial killers or all this other stuff because he stays calm so much, and that's what made him who he is. Right. And he is phenomenal, and he will be phenomenal for a long time. But the Bengals, they better get on the ball because it's hard to pay people, and we all know that they had some holes. That's why they didn't win the Super Bowl. And when it comes time to pay this guy, it gets more and more difficult.
and they probably are the odds-on favorite. I think they are Vegas-wise. They are the favorites going in.
Plus 125.
Plus 125. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they were 12-4 last year, so I mean,
They're solid.
And like I said, they've got a great quarterback. I mean, he was good at LSU, and he's continued, even though he got injured, but he's continued that with Cincinnati.
Absolutely.
I mean, he has put Cincinnati on the map.
And everything that I have read said this may be, I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, was about the strongest divisions. This could very well be the strongest division.
I wouldn't
Robert's
go
shaking
far
his
as
head
that.
no, but
I wouldn't go
but let's
that
take a
far.
look at that. So we think Cincinnati's probably going to repeat. Well, like I said, we'll talk about
I think they're the
in
best
9
team.
weeks. But yeah. But let's talk about what the Ravens have done. The Ravens have made a lot of changes. I don't know if you know this or not, but their leading receiver last year, wide receiver, had 458 yards. That's their leading wide receiver. I mean,
Paltry. Not to be confused with poultry.
but Poultry.
Paltry.
Very paltry number. Mark Andrews had 700, around 700.
They got a great tight end.
And he
He's-
was but their leading rusher was Lamar Jackson. So now that they've added Zay Flowers, they've added OBJ and Nelson Aguilera from New England, right? Are they going to become a passing team now? Are they trying to set up Lamar Jackson to be a passing quarterback instead of a running quarterback?
Did Lamar learn how to throw the ball in the last few months?
That would be negative.
Then I don't
would
think
be
they're going to be a
negative.
good passing team.
No.
So you don't
I mean-
think the fact that now he has all these weapons is not going to help him?
I don't. It's definitely going to help him. And I love Zay Jones. I don't know why I love the guy so much. I wish Zay Jones
Zay
was
Flowers.
Zay Flowers. I'm sorry. I wish Zay Flowers was a Atlanta Falcon, but he's not.
Well, I'm
Odell
just-
Beckham. I haven't seen anything out of him.
I'm
I
just
mean,
so glad the Falcons didn't overpay to get Jackson into Atlanta. That would have
Lord
been
have
a
mercy.
terrible move.
I think so too.
Terrible move.
Yeah.
He is not. He's had his day, but he's been injured so much. He is not even going to. I don't even think he's going to be a factor this year. I really don't. He'll get injured again.
So I'm a little surprised that you're not jumping on the Baltimore Ravens bandwagon with Todd Muckin now being their offensive coordinator.
You know, I mean, I was waiting. I guess I need to come back when we talk about the NFL, the University of Georgia Part 2 at Philadelphia. So,
Yeah, you'll have to come back for that.
Yeah, I'll have to come back and we'll talk
All right.
about the University of Georgia in Philadelphia.
So so I don't know.
and Pittsburgh because they like that whole state of
Well, that-
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so I don't know about Baltimore. Pretty good team. They've always had a decent defense, right?
Right.
So
I mean, they were 10-7. So.
yeah, and that was mostly without Lamar Jackson.
Right, that is true.
Yeah,
I
so-
think most of their season is going to be on J.K. Dobbins. If J.K. Dobbins is running for 1,000 yards, and if Lamar is the leading rusher, it's not going to be a good
No,
thing.
it's not.
If he can run so much that Lamar can pick and choose his spots, and Zay's getting opened, and Odell Beckham doesn't pull his anything.
But J.K. Dobbins was hurt most of last year.
Yeah, he was.
He was for the first part of the year.
Yeah.
At the first part of the year.
Yeah,
Well, who's the backup quarterback? I mean, if
Tyler Huntley is the backup.
Tyler Huntley is.
Okay.
I think he started more games last year than Lamar Jackson did.
well, he
didn't
may start a lot
might
this
be
year.
true.
So.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and at the end of the, I like Tyler Huntley. I think I'd love him to come on our show or something else, but I don't want to build my franchise around him.
Yeah.
I think we've all seen enough out of that.
Right.
Yeah, we have. So decent team, Ravens. Rusty said you said they were 9-7,
10-7. Yeah,
last year.
10-7.
All right. So how about the Browns?
Terrible. They were 7-10. They'll probably be worse this year. I think. I've just, unfortunately, I felt sorry that, that they were really good. Then they kind of left, and then they brought them back, and they've never been the same since. They've
No.
never been the same.
They have not.
I got to tell you how happy I am right now because normally Rusty will say terrible 100 times in one show. That's the first time he's used terrible, but we still got another segment, so I'm not counting him out yet.
21 more minutes, Rusty. Don't give up on us yet.
So Deshaun Watson is really the key to the Browns, right?
In such a big way. But, you got to remember, he didn't do it last year,
Right.
and he didn't do anything the year before.
Right.
And waking up 3 years later and going back to being a top 5 player, when he first had all this stuff happen, he was a top 5 player. Let's go through, is he better than Mahomes?
No.
Is he better than Hurts?
No.
Is he better than? You can go all the way down the list. He's not getting near the top 5, possibly even the top 10
Right.
in quarterbacks. So he has to play out of his mind just to make them relevant because their backup is Josh Dobbs.
Yeah. So
that's not going to go well.
Tennessee fans
Would love that.
Would not be. Yeah, this Josh. You put Josh Dobbs. I mean, he's not a good quarterback, but
No.
I mean, Tennessee fans really think he
Didn't
was.
Josh Dobbs throw a Hail Mary to beat Georgia?
Georgia, he
at
did.
Georgia?
Yeah, but
He did.
They didn't
Good
do anything since. I mean,
That's
they
why
were
we
supposed
should've
to win.
drafted
But
him.
we're not
They were
talking
supposed
about
to
them.
win the SEC and
We're,
did not.
we're not talking about the SEC. We're
right.
talking about the Browns.
They're
So,
terrible.
That's two terribles we got in now. So,
But the Browns aren't very good. They got
No.
a pretty good defense. They've got a great run game with
and they
Nick
did
Chubb.
bring in Jim Schwartz, who was Philadelphia's defense coordinator when they won the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see. The best thing they've got on that team is Nick Chubb, and the more they
Right.
give it to him, the better the team will look.
Right.
I think that's
And
a good
they'll
agreement.
probably need to find. I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to last all year. I really don't. I mean, I'm shocked. He may be, but I think they're going to need a quarterback.
They are
for
going to
sure.
need a
Well,
quarterback.
if he's the Deshaun Watson that played 2018 to 2020, they won't. If he's Deshaun Watson that played the 6 games last year,
Right.
they will.
Right.
And that's what Cleveland boils down to
Yeah.
this year, I'm afraid. Last team on the list is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Now, did you read these off in the predicted order you think they will finish?
No, just
Because
whatever.
it kind of worked out like that for me, at
Yeah,
least.
did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just went down the list of what they had. So,
There you go.
I think it was last year's finish is what it was. Yeah. But, Pittsburgh wound up winning, 6 of their last 7 games last year?
Yeah, they were 9-8.
Kenny
9-8.
Pickett came alive. And
Whoa. I don't know if I'd say
He's
Kenny
no,
Pickett came alive.
well, who was it? Was it Najee Harris?
No, it was that defense. They got the second best defense probably in the NFL. And, Kenny Pickett, I talked about it a year ago. He's got the smallest hands for a quarterback. Now, we can talk people with small hands and all those other great references that happen if you do have small gloves. But this guy's hand is so small that he thinks he should wear a glove on his throwing hand. So bad so that Pittsburgh did not put him on the cover of the
Rolling Stone?
of their media guide
Yeah.
with the glove because they're afraid to have a guy. It's not a good look. It's not a good
Teddy
look.
Bridgewater also wears a glove on his throwing hand.
And Bridgewater's available, Cleveland. So
Yeah, and maybe Pittsburgh. So, so Pittsburgh's a decent team. What did they wind up last year? You said they were 9-8?
Yeah, 9-8.
So everybody
So, yeah.
in the division, no, the Browns were under 500 last
yeah.
year.
Yeah, the
Browns were
Browns
7-10.
Browns were last, and then it was the Steelers, and then the Ravens and the Bengals. That's kind of how it lined
the
up.
Browns
Yeah.
the Browns haven't won more than 8 games in over 15 years.
Yeah.
And they're still one of 4 teams that have not played in the Super Bowl, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And have they had a winning season since they've been back in Cleveland?
Oh, I'm sure they
I
have.
believe they've
Yeah,
had one,
since they've
but
been-
but
since
but
they've been back,
basically
so-
just 500
Yeah.
once or twice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So, so that's the NFC wrap up, AFC North wrap up, and we'll get into the AFC East next week with Buffalo, the Jets, and
Let me ask you guys
the
this question.
Patriots and the Dolphins.
Mike Tomlin has never finished below 500 in his 15 years.
That's
at
pretty
Pittsburgh.
impressive.
That's incredible.
Look what I had.
Does it happen this year?
Look what I had as my note, Robert. Robert Tomlin, one of the best. Or
There you
Mike
go.
Tomlin. Yeah. Great coach in Mike Tomlin. And I don't think he's going anywhere. I think the Rooney family is very happy with Mike Tomlin.
Is he going to have a losing season finally, though?
No, I don't think so.
He'll find a way to.
He'll win at
9
least
and 8.
9. Yeah, he'll be 9-8 again. Yeah.
All right. We got our last commercial break in, and let's get into it with Bearcat Express.
Do you need a delivery, as in go now, please? Bearcat Express has expedited shipping on hand-carried items, car, van, or pickup. Whether it's from Atlanta to Athens, Dothan to Augusta, Memphis to Charlotte, or any point in between, we've got the drivers to get your stuff where it needs to be. Whether your passport's still on your dresser, your 5-wood isn't in your bag, or you have a dog that hates to fly, Bearcat Express with their live tracking capabilities is the team to turn to. We are the go-to courier in the Southeast, so check us out at bearcatexpress.com.
And again, we want to thank Blair Cook for being a sponsor all year.
Absolutely.
This is Blair's last month with us, and David McDonough and Alvin Jameson. I think Alvin's continuing, but we'll have a couple of new sponsors coming up in August, and look forward to having those on board at Three Guys Who Love Sports. Now, it is time for the topic that I've been most excited about: the 5 greatest coaches in college football for 2023. ATI has suggested that we do this one by one, that they can go over their own stories. Is that right, Adam?
Yes,
All right.
everybody goes through one by one, and then at the end you say you're 5, and you say you're 5, and you say.
Okay, so Robert, do you want to go first, or
ATI
we want?
sounded
we
more
want-
like a producer all of a sudden.
Yeah, or do we want
ATI
Rusty?
needs direction.
ATI needs TikTok clips.
Do we want Rusty to go first?
We want Rusty to go first.
All right, Rusty, start with number 5 and
All
work your
right.
way up to number 1.
Number 5. In 2023, right?
Yep. Newt Rockney.
No.
Tom Osborne.
My number 5 would probably be Dabo Swinney and Clemson. Now, I don't think he's going to be that good this year. I think they've lost a lot on defense. But at this point in time, he is the top 5. However, Norvell at Florida State is catching up very quickly. They looked really good last year, and will have a really good team this year. Next would probably be Jim Harbaugh at Michigan.
Captain Khaki.
Yep, he goes to the Final Four to lose every year. So there you go. At least Sweeney's won at least 2 or 3 national championships. So I should have had him 5th and Sweeney 4th. Well, I mean, we could change that. My next guy is Mr. Day at Ohio State. Probably the best football game all year last year was the game against Georgia and
How did
Ohio
I know
State.
that wasn't coming up?
That was the absolute best football game. That was the national championship game, folks.
It
for
turns out it was.
2023. Next, I'm going to put Nick Saban at Alabama. I think Nick Saban has had a good run, but I think that run is slowly coming.
Is this
to
dog
an
putting Saban
end.
out to
Yes.
pasture?
I think
Can I guess who number 1 is?
yeah, you can't, but you're not going to say it. I do. I think he's in need of a quarterback, and he had one transfer in that was terrible. That's the 3rd one. And
Terrible
the
number
number
3.
1 coach for 2023, even though we will probably win our 3rd national championship with most of our team in ankle braces, is Kirby Smart.
I was going to say Jimbo Fisher.
Kirby not so smart, but we'll get to that.
No. If I had to pick, if I was 6 and 7, I would go with Norvell and Kelly at LSU.
You already went with Norvell in your top 5.
Well,
I
he said
could be.
he was right on
Could
the
be.
outside.
He was
Oh, okay.
outside looking in.
All right, you want me to go, Robert, or you want to go?
Whichever you want me to do, partner.
I'll go just because I want to go right after Rusty and show him how badly he is wrong.
No, your list isn't that good.
Cut his mic off.
Your
will you?
number
Yeah.
5 is extremely questionable.
All right. My number 5
ATI, you're my man today.
is
You're my
Josh
man.
Heupel.
What?
He did some amazing
That's
things at
what I
Tennessee
said.
last year.
He did some amazing
What?
things at UCF, and he did some amazing things at Tennessee. And I think he is on the rise. I think he is now recruiting the 5-star players. Look at the garbage fire he got when he got in there. And what he's done over the last 2 years is kind of turned it around a little bit. So Josh Heupel is my number 5. I like the way he handles his program. He has, as a matter of fact, I looked this up. 0 criminals on his team so far in the last
Oh,
2
come on,
years.
it's Tennessee,
No,
baby.
no.
That's why
I
they're so bad.
literally typed in
That's why they're so
Tennessee with the
bad.
most the
Now
college
I-
football team. No, let me finish. Let me do mine. Number 4 is Brian Kelly. I think Brian Kelly is the same way. He was great at Notre Dame. He did
he
the
wasn't.
right thing for many years. And now that he's in Baton Rouge, he's going to get things turned around. You know, the baseball coach there won his national championship in his second year. The women's basketball coach won her championship in the second year. And I think Brian Kelly might be his. So I've got Kelly at number 4. And again, 0 player incidents in the last 24 months with Brian Kelly. And
Seems to be a theme.
yeah, well, you'd think so. So number 3, and again, this is twice in the same day. I've agreed with Rusty, which could be a miracle in itself. Yeah, I have Jim Harbaugh at number 3. Jim Harbaugh has won 2 straight Big Ten championships. He has won the big game against Ohio State twice. And he lost to TCU last year. But again, it took him a while to get into the recruiting, get into the 5-star. And I think he is on the rise as opposed to being on the downfall. So I got him at number 3.
And didn't he lose the one other time in the Final Four? Who was that team that beat them? Wasn't it the guy
was
by
the
the red?
question?
Yeah,
It was like
please.
UGA.
So, and you know, this gets to, I believe, and I'll go ahead and say this. I believe that most colleges recruit student athletes. Is that the goal for a college football coach, or is the goal
I mean,
to
Georgia
recruit?
Georgia
They recruit
recruits
athlete students.
criminals.
Yeah, athlete students.
That
Let me
is not
finish.
true.
Let me
That is
finish.
not true.
Let me finish my point. All right. So number 2, I have is Nick Saban. His championships speak for themselves. Alabama has had some issues. I don't think the football players have. I know the basketball team had somebody get arrested for murder or something, so not good. That's why we got Antoine Petway up here at KSU now, which is a great thing.
And the baseball players are all gamblers there.
And the baseball players are all gamblers, but I think Nick runs a pretty clean program. And number 5, number 1, I have Dabo Swinney. If I had a 5-star athlete in my family, and I sat with any of these 5 coaches, I'd want him to play for Swinney. I think he's a class act. I think they will be better, and that's why I would go with him. And now all these teams, all 5 of these, and again, I'm talking about, if you're talking about college football and you're recruiting, who you're recruiting, they are recruiting student athletes. Kirby Smart is not. He's recruiting football players. And there's a big difference between recruiting student athletes and recruiting athlete students. As of March 2nd of this year, in the last 13 months, Georgia had 11 players arrested, and they've had 3 more since then. So, from my opinion, and it's only my opinion.
It's definitely only your opinion.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. 'Cause I think ATI is on board with me, but they're not recruiting student athletes. They're recruiting athletes, and he may be a hell of a recruiter, but I can't put him in my top 5 coaches.
That was terrible.
Well,
That was absolutely awful.
Josh
I'm
Heupel.
I'm sorry. I had
That
to
is-
sit through that.
Captain
That's a
Khaki.
fantastic TikTok clip.
Oh God.
That will go up
Yeah,
immediately.
you're gonna be a huge success in the
In the Bulldog world.
in the world. So let me just start by saying, who the 5 best coaches. Coaches have 2 different jobs. One's a recruiter, and 2 are X's and O's guys. And I, on my list, have 3 recruiters and 2 X's and O's guys. Number 5, I'm going Chip Kelly. Chip, I think, has started to turn the corner because he inherited a lot of garbage in UCLA, but that team appears like it might be ready to turn the corner. So Chip Kelly,
In the Big Ten.
yeah, in the Big Ten, he's got to pack one more year. But yeah, he's my number 5. Dabo has fallen a little bit. He's going to be my number 4, but he's still a great recruiter. I think he could smooth talk anybody into anything, and because of that, you can't get rid of him. Number 3 is Pat Fitzgerald. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Pat Fitzgerald does not have a
No,
job
wait
anymore.
a minute. He
My
was
bad.
fired.
Pat Fitzgerald.
My bad. He is not on my list. Number 3 would be Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley is currently the best X's and O's guy in the game. Yes, he has more video game players than anybody else wherever he goes, whether it be Oklahoma or USC. But he's got the talent to do it, and he seems to know what to do with it once he has it. Top 2, both recruiters. I'm going Kirby number 2. What he's done here, second to none. Well, second to one. But he's on the verge of number 3, and he's won 2 in a row without having a big time quarterback, and he's going to have a big time quarterback this year. Number 1, Uncle Nick. You can't take. He keeps coming back. One of the craziest things about Nick Saban's career, and when you look at it, break it down to how often he got to keep his coordinators. Did he get to keep his offensive coordinator for 3 years? Has never happened since he had this job. He is constantly retraining somebody for his 2 main positions, which goes to show you how good he is, not just at recruiting players, but recruiting coaches.
Yep. So the one thing we all 3 had in common was Nick Saban at number 2. So that's.
I had him at number 1, but thanks for paying attention.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did. Hey, I'm surprised you put smart at number 2. So that wasn't so smart of me. But yeah, that's cool. They're all good lists. I mean,
Right.
Everybody has a right to their own opinion. I had Lincoln Riley at number 6, but when they got slaughtered last year by Utah in the championship game and the trouble they had with the green wave of Tulane, I just couldn't slide him up there.
He's an offensive guy,
Yeah.
He doesn't teach anybody how to tackle.
No.
Saban's out on the field going, telling his
Yeah.
secondary,
Well,
this
I mean,
is what you
even
do
at
and how you
Oklahoma,
do it.
Even at Oklahoma, I mean, he would get in the Final Four and lose every year. They were in it a long time, and he never got there. And he had better athletes than what he showed.
But just for
But,
the sake of
yeah.
arguing,
I didn't even think about him.
Bob Stoops brought that to Oklahoma.
Right.
He did,
Riley
yeah.
just kept
Right.
that tradition going.
Right.
Yeah.
And going about Nick Saban, I think y'all were both right. But however, his pick of assistant coaches here lately have not been that well.
Well, they keep getting jobs somewhere else.
And the fan base ran off the last offensive and defensive coordinator. The fan base ran them off.
But let's just back it up for just a moment as we throw him onto on the cross yet again. They lost 2 games last year by a total of 4 points in a list that I saw the other day that his 2 losses were in the 2 most difficult cities to play in America.
Neyland Stadium.
Oh, he should
And Baton Rouge.
have won
And
that
Baton
game.
Rouge,
So
yeah.
he should have won Neyland Stadium.
But he lost by 1 point. He lost by 1 point with 112,000 people
Yeah.
watching. You
They
can
should
throw
have
it.
never even
It's,
been.
it's not exactly like the guy went 7-6. He hasn't fallen that far, and I think everybody better watch out.
And realistically, his coordinators, I mean, it's just Nick Saban's home for the rehabilitation of coaches who don't do so
Right.
good. So
Yeah.
He does get really good. He gets whoever he wants.
He does, and that's a big plus for Saban. Very very good discussion of the show. I think Robert's got something else to say.
I always
can
have
tell.
something else to say. You've got the 45 days to the first game, Notre Dame and Navy.
Yep.
But I saw a commercial last night during the All-Star game. How about the September 2nd prime time versus TCU?
Colorado and TCU.
Oh, I think this is going to be the wake-up call that nobody from Boulder wants.
I think you're
Oh, they're gonna get
exactly
killed.
right.
That was
yeah.
a 1-11 roster, and it's
Yeah.
still not going to be very good.
Al
He's ran
Seraldo-
off half his football team.
Al Seraldo couldn't even call that game because Dion doesn't have a toe, so he couldn't
Yeah.
say toe meets leather.
I don't know. Has he removed the toe? I
Hey,
thought
he's
I read
lost a
He
something.
just
couple
had
of toes.
surgery.
Okay.
Yeah, he's lost a couple of toes. So,
It's crazy for the fastest guy ever. Whenever you watch him walk across the field, and you're like, people who don't know look at him and they're like, "What happened to that guy?"
He lost
We
his
might
toes.
see Colorado get beat 70-something to nothing.
It could look very similar to the national championship score.
Well,
Only TCU will have the W.
And
this time.
I want to say this before we get out of here. If I was just choosing football teams, and I would put Georgia in the top 5. I will say that. But I'm not putting the coach in the top 5. Georgia's obviously the favorite. They play cupcakes again this year. Georgia's real test will come in 24. And if they come through and they're the champions in 24, I will wear a Georgia Bulldog hat on this show.
Lord have mercy.
In
Mark it
24.
down.
So does that mean we're Oklahoma and Texas comes in there? Really? Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, does Pat Fitzgerald
We
get a
beat
job
both of
after
them.
this season? Is he getting another shot at this?
The team that beat them is no longer in school, Rusty. They're no longer in school.
I mean, come on.
In Nick
I'm not
Saban's
scared of Oklahoma or
home for
Texas.
the rehabilitation of coaches who can't coach so good.
All right.
Of course, hang on.
Could happen.
I do like this question, though. Is there a difference between the best team and the best program?
I've already answered that.
Well, the thing about it is if you don't have a good program, you're not going to have a good team. I don't care what you say. You can
totally
recruit
agree with
athletes.
that. Disagree with that.
Georgia
You
has
can-
a terrible program and a great team.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
do not have a bad program. That's a false sense
I
of
mean,
security.
they have 14
that,
people that have
it doesn't
gotten
matter.
They got criminals.
You got
it
X's
doesn't
and
matter.
O's,
It
and you got
does.
Jimmys and Joes.
It does if
it
you're a
does not.
student athlete coach. They're an athlete team.
Yeah, but they don't win, and that's.
But
and that's the
that's
thing about
not
it
that's
is.
not what student athletes are about.
Well,
if
that's-
it's just about football,
But that's
then
if you want to
Georgia's the
keep your
best.
job, you better win.
There are a lot of coaches
Yeah.
out there that haven't, but we'll
And
see
have
what
been
happens. And they're still coaching somewhere else. All right, so need to wrap this up. Don't forget, you can now follow us on Instagram at 3 Guys Who Love Sports. And if you want to write to me specifically, that's CB Loves Football. CB LUVS Football. And I want to thank my coach Lori for getting me all into Instagram this week, and shout out for driving all the way down from Nashville just to see this show.
We didn't have anybody to call in because she's sitting right here.
I know, because she's sitting right here. She couldn't text in about anybody's swagger this week, but we appreciate Lori coming down for the show. And guys, as always, know your numbers, cover your ass, get your prostate checked. We'll see you next week. Oh, and next week, don't forget, it's our 75th show, and we're going to have a party. So everybody show up to Miller's for the 75th show. Thanks, Russ.
You're welcome.
On July the 19th. We'll see you then. Bye.
Shoot.